Hello, hello. Welcome back to Monday Momentum with Chianti. I am your favorite mindset and leadership coach, Chianti Lomax, and we are back for another week. Y'all, I'm killing it. Like the consistency has been going, and I'm proud of myself. You know what I'm saying? It's not easy to be consistent. And I think that consistency is going to be another word that I'm going to operate under for the month of June, for the rest of the month of June. So welcome in. Come on in. Come on in. Shout out to everyone joining live on Instagram. Hey, Maura. Shout out to everyone joining live on YouTube and Facebook Live. Thank you for being here. Again, this is Monday Momentum with Chianti Lomax, your favorite mindset and leadership coach. I help high performing women move from overwhelm to ease because I believe that both can coexist. Oh man, it's like, what's today? June 13th? June is moving, moving, moving. I feel like it just got here, but that's all right. We're going to celebrate. We're going to find joy. We're going to be grateful for the month, for the days that are passing. If you are new around here, this is my live weekly show. I'm here every Monday at 7 p.m. This is the Monday Momentum, where I share my signature strategies for clarity, mindset mastery, and momentum. So this was my way of just like connecting in a real way with the community online and with the folks that are part of my Instagram community, Facebook community. I wanted, just a way to talk to y'all without just posting content. Like, I'm like, y'all need to see me here. I need to show up for y'all. I need to show up for myself. We need to show up, talk, have conversations, and most importantly, build community. All right. So for those of you who are joining for the first time, I like to kick off each live by sharing a reflection. So like checking in, how are we showing up today? So my reflection question for today is, when you leave a room, what do people miss about you the most? So what kind of impact do you think you make? So when you leave a room, what do people miss about you the most? So feel free to think about that, ponder that, and drop it in the chat. So we like to engage over here. This isn't a soliloquy. I'm not just talking at you. I like to have a conversation with y'all about things that can create change, that create momentum and clarity for our lives. So if you are on Instagram Live or Facebook Live or joining us on YouTube, hey y'all. Our check-in question is, when you leave a room, what do people miss about you the most? And while you're doing that, I just want to say welcome back again for another week. Last week, we talked about what it means to be in flow and in your zone. We talked about how to create more flow moments in your life. And being in flow is just like really being in the zone, having an extreme amount of focus. And we talked about ways to do that. Today, we are going to talk about a secret weapon of resilient people. All right. So a secret weapon for resilient people is self-compassion. Now, on the surface level, I know what you're thinking. You're like, well, what does that even mean? Right? So if I had to give you my definition of that, so my definition of self-compassion is the idea of being your own best friend, like how you can show up better for yourself. It's about being kind to yourself. And it may not sound as tangible, but during these chaotic times, when the economy is going every which way, when you're dealing with personal and professional challenges, it's good to practice self-compassion as a way of being. So here's an unfortunate truth. An unfortunate truth is that we, especially women, have become experts. We've become experts on cheering people on. We've become experts on just showing up for people, even strangers, being so nice to other people. But we kind of lack when it comes to ourselves, right? And I know some of you might be like, not me, I love myself. Well, okay, then that's good for you. I ain't talking to you. I'm talking for the people who know that you sometimes have some negative self-talk, some mind chatter that might prevent you from going to that next level, that might be holding you back from doing something that you really love in your personal life or in your professional life. So this is for you, and everyone else, you can just hang out. So if you're like me, right, I am a self-proclaimed overachiever, type A kind of personality type. Tend to get carried away with like, oh, things have to be this kind of way, or I got to do this, I got to check the box, I got to check the box. And it can be good, it can be a benefit to me, right? That I like to achieve things, but it also can be to your detriment, right? And so if you are just joining in, welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Monday Momentum with Chianti, and we're talking about we talk about one of the superpowers of resilient people, and that is self-compassion, right? So it's something that we probably don't give a lot of credence to. We don't talk about a lot, but this is a really great way to be more resilient in your personal life, in your career, in your business. If you're a business owner, this idea that I can be my own best friend, because I feel like we get really good at being other people's cheerleaders. Like we get really good at boosting up our friends, boosting up family members, our partners, whoever it is. And you need to also do that for yourself. All right. So it's crazy because you might be thinking, well, why do I need to practice self-compassion? If you've ever said something like, well, I should have done this or I should have done that. Like if you kept doing all the shoulds, I should have lost weight by now, or I should have found a new job by now, or I should be making more money by now, or I should have invested by now. This is for you. This is for the people who love to should on yourself when you could be being kind to yourself and giving yourself a little bit more grace. So if you are tuning in live, please drop live in the chat. If you are checking out the replay on Instagram, YouTube, or Facebook, drop the word #replay so that I know you were here. And for those of you who are just tuning in, we're just talking about self-compassion. Self-compassion as a way or a tool to be more resilient in your personal and professional life. Now listen. One of the people that I think has this figured out, and I don't know him personally, but I think that this person has figured out the strategy for an abundance of self-compassion, and that is Brother Love himself, P. Diddy Puff Daddy Combs. And y'all might be like, you crazy. No, for real, seriously. I think that Puff Daddy has figured it out, because if you notice, he is always about loving himself, taking care of himself. You can't tell him that, he's not the best at what he does. And I feel like he's one of those people that's like, all right, yeah, talking to himself like, okay, yeah, the city girl drama was crazy, but I'm still good. I'm still that. I'm still this and that. I feel like he's figured it out. So I think we should take a page from his book and learn how to be our own love cheerleader. Like learn how to support ourselves in hard moments, in good moments, in bad moments, like any moment. I think that we just have to get good at being our own cheerleader. And I personally think that Brother Love, aka P. Diddy Combs, has figured out how to be his own best friend. And we should take a note from his book, right? So I don't agree with everything Brother Love does, but I think that from what we can see, this brother loves himself. And I think we should love ourselves just as much as P. Diddy loves P. Diddy. Okay? All right. So if you are just joining, welcome to Monday Momentum. My name is Chianti Lomax, and I am your favorite mindset and leadership coach. And this is Monday Momentum. And today we're talking about the idea of being your own best friend. This idea of showing up for yourself, of giving yourself a little bit more grace. We're talking about just this idea that we can show up and be kind and support ourselves just as much as we support the people in our lives personally and professionally. And here's the bottom line. The bottom line is we just have to get better at doing it. It's like a muscle. It's a muscle that you develop over time. You're not going to figure it out in one day. It's just practice. You get to practice speaking life to yourself. You get to practice being your own kind of self-coach. You get to practice pumping yourself up in the mirror. Like I know some days when I'm like, it's a rough day, maybe I worked hard the day before, or maybe I'm just not having a good mental health day or whatever that is, I'll look at myself in the mirror and be like, yeah, you know what? Your afro is curly today. Like just anything, just finding anything to share myself a little bit more love, a little bit more kindness, and a little bit more grace, right? Because self-compassion, it's one of the quickest ways to just build more resilience in your business, in your personal life, and just in your professional life. So if you're just joining, welcome to Monday Momentum with Chianti. I am your favorite mindset and leadership coach, and we're talking about this idea of being our own best friend, like this idea of showing yourself just as much grace, just as much kindness, just as much support as you do for the people in your lives, because I mean, fortunately and unfortunately, we have become experts on just being the supportive partner, being the supportive best friend, being the supportive, I don't know, big sister, big brother. We've just gotten really good at cheering other people on from the sidelines. But what about in your own house? Like, what about inside? What about yourself? I honestly believe like we just tend to drop the ball there, and you would never say the harsh words that you say to yourself internally to someone else, to your best friend or to your your significant other. So I want to invite you to learn how to be your own best friend. I want to invite you to learn how to give yourself a little bit more grace. I want to invite you to learn how to show up for yourself, even in how you speak to yourself, how you think about who you are. Um, and anytime you feel like you're going down that road of a negative thought about yourself, or you want to say something negative about yourself, I want you to build that awareness and catch it and try to reframe it. So what you didn't do as well that day. So maybe you didn't get all the tasks that you wanted to get done. Maybe you didn't do the workout that you were supposed to do today. It's okay. Like, learn how to give yourself a break. I'm not saying slack off completely. I'm not saying, you know what, I'm just going to be lazy and not do anything. I'm just saying cut yourself some slack. Like, learn how to be kinder and supportive to yourself. So here's one thing I want to clear up. So some people, when they hear the word self-compassion, they automatically think, oh, so basically you're telling me that I need to boost my self-esteem or have high self-esteem. So no, I'm not talking about self-esteem. All those higher levels of self-esteem, it's a byproduct of being more self-compassionate. And self-esteem, it really speaks more to your confidence, more to your self-efficacy, which means like the belief in yourself, which at too many higher levels of it, it can boost your ego, but not in a good way. I'm talking about the habit of being more compassionate in how you speak and think about yourself, right? So I wanted to share, before we drop today, I wanted to share 3 ways to remember or to keep in mind this idea of being your own best friend. So y'all ready? Okay. The first thing I want you to remember about self-compassion is that self-compassion, again, it's not about self-esteem. Self-compassion is really about treating yourself with kindness. It's about being nice to yourself. It's about practicing verbal love when you're faced with a challenge. Self-compassion is about giving yourself just a little bit more grace when you mess up. We all mess up. It's okay. Like, giving yourself the grace is really what self-compassion is about. So that's the first thing. And if you're joining, we're talking about self-compassion. And right now I'm walking through the 3 things to remember about self-compassion. The second thing is it's about self-compassion. It's about understanding your humanity. So we're all human and nobody's perfect. Like, we mess up. And so one of the things that I like to say to myself whenever I'm having a rough day, or I just need a little bit more love in terms of like not accomplishing something that I said I was going to do, I say, give yourself permission to be human. And it automatically helps me to reframe how I'm looking at everything, because nobody is going to be perfect. You're not going to be operating at high levels of productivity all the time. You're not going to get all the things right. You're not going to say all the right things every time. So remembering that I'm human and I give myself permission to be human helps me to reframe any situation or challenge that I'm dealing with. The third thing I want you to remember about self-compassion is being mindful of how you handle your perceived weaknesses. All right. So for me personally, I like to reframe any weakness or perceived weakness, because a lot of times it's not a weakness, it's just an opportunity for growth. Or even how we perceive failure, another thing, is not a failure. I see it as an opportunity to learn something. So if there's something, if I failed at something, it's like, well, what did I learn from it? What can I do better next time? So instead of beating myself up, instead of calling myself all kind of crazy names, or like going down this negative road of you should have, you could have, I say, what can I do better next time? And that automatically helps me to grow from that perceived failure or that perceived weakness. Because honestly, is it really that bad? No. Half the time is not that bad. So always ask yourself, what can I learn from this? So again, there are three things I want you to keep in mind when you're thinking about self-compassion, when you're thinking about how do I become my own best friend? Like, how do I show up better for myself? Three things. One, remember that self-compassion is about treating yourself with kindness, treating yourself with grace. Remember that self-compassion is about giving yourself permission to be human. And lastly, remember that self-compassion is about being mindful of how you handle perceived failures and weaknesses, right? And the last thing I'll say about self-compassion is that it really helps you to create a more realistic and stable perspective of who you are. It helps you to bounce back quickly. It helps you to be more resilient. Your personal life and your relationships and your business. It really helps you to build that resilience to get you to the next level of life. And it gives you a little bit more happiness. And we can all use that, right? So if you are watching us live, I want you to drop in the comments one way that you are going to be kinder to yourself. If you are catching the replay, drop replay and tell me, how are you going to be kinder to yourself? Like, how are you going to pour into yourself this week? All right. This has been good. Like, this is one of my favorite things to talk about. It's an underutilized secret of resilient, or it's the underutilized secret of people, it's tangible, right? It's accessible. It's not something that you have to pull a whole bunch of energy from. It's literally just being kind to myself, giving myself grace, learning how to be my own best friend. And you already know how to do that because you got friends. You know what it's like to be a cheerleader for your friends. So do it for yourself. Okay? All right. So thank you so much for tuning in to Monday Momentum with Chianti. I am so excited that this is a consistent thing that I've been working on, and I have been doing it since last month. Yay! It's not a big deal to you, but for me, it was a challenge that I had for myself in 2022 that I was going to be my own best friend. I was going to show up for myself and for you and my community. All right. So if you are looking to talk more about this, send me a DM. If you want to hop on a call, go to the link in my bio, click book a call with Chianti, or it should say coaching with Chianti. It says one of those things. And let's set up 15 minutes to chat, okay? Thank you so much for tuning in for Monday Momentum with Chianti. I am your favorite mindset and leadership coach, and I hope that you take this and use it this week, or just share it with one person that you know could benefit from it, okay? Thank you for tuning in. I'll see you next time. Next week, same place, same time, all right?